Hi, my name is Tina and welcome to my channel. Today I want to talk about the psych evaluation. So this is something that my insurance required before I could get approved for my surgery, and I believe most insurance plans require a psych evaluation before surgery, and I had a lot of anxiety around it before I had it. So I just wanted to share my experience with you. And if you're new here, my name is Tina, and I had duodenal switch surgery on June 9th of 2020. And I am just filming videos for YouTube just to document my journey and just as personal fulfillment. So welcome, and I hope you enjoy my video. So the psych evaluation is, for me, it was required by my surgery. I had some anxiety around it just because I really didn't know what to expect, and this occurred over Zoom because of the pandemic. We tried to do as many things as we could pre-surgery or through Zoom. I'm not sure if it's typically done through Zoom. I don't know how the pandemic issues have affected that, but it wasn't. I didn't find it to be. It was real personable, and it felt good. So that wasn't really an issue, but I was at home. So it took about an hour. I needed privacy. Obviously, not that my husband isn't aware of most of my issues, but I just suggest if you're going to do this at home, you kind of do it at a time where there's nobody home and nobody around, because they do dig a little bit deep. So the questions were pretty broad, and I feel like I could have embellished more of my answers, and I feel like that's kind of what they were kind of trying to pull information out of you while you're talking to them, which is that's their job. That's the job of any therapist. So the first series of questions that I remember them asking me were, why do I want to have surgery? And so I kind of went into that. The reason that I wanted to have surgery my reasoning was about I've just tried every possible thing, and I'm just tired, and I've battered my body just trying to get rid of weight to the point where I can still lose weight. I could still lose weight before surgery, but there was no question that I would gain it back immediately, and then I would always gain more back. So I shared that with a therapist, and then that kind of went into my diet and weight history. So we talked a little bit about that. I told her about my just yo-yoing, and as a child I was kind of normal, but I was always the biggest person in my family, and because everybody in my family is very petite, my immediate family. So I was always the chubby one, and always the funny one, always the one with the, nice personality, but just always fat. And I talked a lot about that. Talked about that. It was kind of my identity and how I felt about myself. And we talked a lot about body image. She asked me about body image, and she asked me about how I saw myself, after I lose weight, and how, and that's a great question to ask, and I'm still working on that. And I told her that. I just was honest, and I totally encourage you to be 100% honest in your psych evaluation, because you might realize some things that you didn't realize before. So it's things that so I don't think it's necessarily going to prevent you from being approved for surgery. I think things that would prevent you from being approved for surgery are more around somebody coercing you to have surgery, or pressuring you to have surgery, or pressuring you to lose weight, or feeling like you have to for some reason that's not about your health and for yourself. If you're wanting to have weight loss surgery for somebody else, I think that would probably be an issue. But really, what I took away from that is that it just made me think about these things. So I found it really helpful. We talked a lot about how I'm currently eating. So how I was eating before my surgery, when I had the evaluation. So At that point, I had been on the pre-surgery diet for about 2 months. And so I shared with her that my pre-surgery diet, which was low carb and low sugar, and I lost 20 pounds in 3 months before my surgery. So I just kind of explained to her how I was eating then. And she just was asking if I felt like I was comfortable continuing that, or if it was something I was anxious to get off, and I think she was kind of feeling around to see if I had a binge disorder, which I'm not going to say I've never binged, and I did share that with her. I have had a history, not a huge history with binging, but I have concealed my eating, and I have tried to hide things that I was eating from people, because I knew I was eating excessively, and I just was ashamed and embarrassed, and so I did share that with her. And then she asked a lot about, do I understand the surgery and how that's going to affect my body and my future eating habits? So we talked about that. Duodenal switch is very unique in that it's a sleeve, so you have your stomach is small, and that restricts your eating, and then your intestines are rerouted, so even if you do overeat, it's everything, most of what you eat is malabsorbed, especially if you're overeating, especially if you're eating, the malabsorption centers around your protein and your fats and your complex carbohydrates. But if you overeat simple carbs, then you're just going to gain weight because you don't really malabsorb simple carbs. So we talked a little bit about that. So there is some self-discipline that you have to really, really focus on, especially the first year. And we talked about that. We talked about, the commitment. We talked about how it wasn't going to just be an overnight miracle. I wasn't just going to wake up from surgery and be 150 pounds lighter. We talked about social supports. So she asked me who was going to be around to help me the first couple weeks, and I discussed my husband would be home. He works from home, so that was a simple thing. And for me, and he's just a very supportive person, and she did ask, and what if he had a day where he couldn't be there, what would I do? And so I told her, plans that I had for that. But I mean, in my situation, I'm really lucky that he's available to be around most of the time. And we talked about body image. So if you have been morbidly obese for most of your life, as I've been morbidly obese since I was, my first child was born when I was 19. So after I had my first child, between the time I had my first child and the time I had my second child, I gained probably close to 150 pounds just in that year and a half time. And so I was fairly young. I was, 20. And I never, even as a child, I never felt thin. I was just never a thin person. I wasn't obese at that point, but you know how your mental, maybe you don't know. Your brain tells you you're fat if you are bigger than somebody around you. At least me, it did. So we talked about that. We talked about my body image and how I saw myself as a thin person, how I pictured losing weight, how I pictured how my life would change if I wasn't morbidly obese. We talked quite a bit about that. And like I said, it was like an hour-long conversation, so it wasn't, none of these things went by. They were kind of, she was really good at teasing answers out of me and, provoking me to want to talk, which isn't hard for anybody. But she kind of monitored my ability to manage my emotions. So when she was asking me about, my history of dieting and my history of weight loss, and talking a little bit about my childhood and all those things, her job is to monitor my emotions, or to see how I'm monitoring my emotions. And so just I was just cognitive of that. I was a social worker for a long time, so I kind of know what these type of things are about. And I was very upfront about it, and I said I do have emotion around being the big child in my family. I do have emotions around, feeling like I couldn't eat anything because everybody was looking at me. I have emotions around those things, and I was honest about it, but I'm not overly emotional about it. I'm 51 years old, and these things happened when I was pretty young, so I've worked through some things already. And I think that her job was to kind of monitor where I was on those type of things. I think anybody that's 150 pounds overweight or more, there's some emotional thing going on. I know that's a broad and judgmental statement, but that's just kind of, you might not feel it, you might not see it or think of it or want to think of it, but there's usually something going on. So she was kind of provoking me to discuss that type of thing. And she asked me a few times if anybody was pressuring me to have surgery. So I know that was kind of a big question in her evaluation. And she also talked quite a bit about, or she asked me a few times what my goal weight was. And I told her, at the time, my goal weight was 150 pounds. And I know that that's still considered overweight, or it's not. It's still fairly big, but I know that I could get lower than that after talking to my doctor after surgery. And I think that was a great answer for me to give her, because it's not unrealistic, and I'm not trying to be 120 pounds or anything just drastic. I'm just trying to be healthy. And I think that was kind of important. I think she was asking that question. And then the last bit of the psychological evaluation that I wanted to point out is that part of it was to assess me to see if I was going to be compliant with the rules. And specifically with our duodenal switch surgery, it's so malabsorptive, and it can be so dangerous if you don't take it seriously, and if you don't follow the guidelines and the supplements that you have to take for the rest of your life, focusing on protein for the rest of your life. Water intake is just really, really important. And I think that part of the psychological evaluation is just observing and determining if you're the type of person that's going to be willing to follow those guidelines, because it's very serious, and it can get me very, very scary. So anyway, I hope this was a helpful video. I just kind of wanted to share my thoughts on the psychological evaluation. I meant to do this a few weeks ago, but it's been a while since I had that, and I hadn't thought about it really with any depth. And so I was thinking about it over the weekend, and I thought, I should share this, because it was definitely something I was a little stressed out about before I had it. And I know that if anybody's watching this video before surgery, they're probably thinking the same thing. Psychological evaluation, if you're not in that field, or if you've never had one before, it just sounds like it's going to be really invasive and traumatizing, and it wasn't those things at all. It was helpful, and the whole thing made me think of things that I hadn't thought about at all, which I probably needed to think about. So anyway, I hope this was helpful to you. I like doing these videos so much, and I might have a follow-up with this, just because I don't like doing videos that are very long at all. I really just don't like watching long videos, and I don't like making long videos. So there might be a follow-up, just because I do have more things to say about this. But for today, I am done with this video. So thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe if you haven't already. And my next video, I believe, is going to be about, I think I'm going to do a what I eat in a day. I've been wanting to do that for a long time, but I haven't really been eating anything. So I think I'm to the point now where I could do something that would be interesting and helpful. So anyway, have a great day. Thank you. Bye.